Support for the Kings of Anglia podcast is brought to you by Manscaped, who are the best in men's below-the-waist grooming. Manscaped offers precision-engineered tools for your family jewels. Manscaped is trusted by over 2 million men worldwide, so join the movement for all your below-the-waist grooming needs. Get 20% off plus free delivery with the code KOA at manscaped.com. Okay, balls on the table time. I know what you're thinking, KOA Army. Why do I need to get involved with Manscaped? Well, boys, it's not the 90s anymore. You don't want your nuts to be looking like Ivan Campo these days. You've got to give it a little tidy up. Makes it look bigger too. And Manscaped have just launched in the UK, so you can be among the first in the country to use their life-changing products. Sounds good, doesn't it? Needless to say, it's a delicate area down there. We all know that. One little nick and your boys are bleeding worse than Big Terry Butcher's forehead back in the day. Luckily though, friends, Manscaped have redesigned the electric trimmer and perfected the greatest sack shaver of all time. Of all time! The new improved Lawnmower 3.0 just launched in the UK. It's got all sorts of cool features like a ceramic blade to reduce grooming accidents, a 7,000 RPM motor with quiet stroke technology, and an LED light so you can see what you're doing down there. Very important. It's all more exciting than a Paul Cook presser, isn't it? It's waterproof too, so no need to worry about pubes going everywhere, and you get a USB charging dock with it as well. 90 minutes of battery life, boys. That's more than enough, unless of course you're Ipswich Town trying to score a goal. So make your testes their besties, or to put it a different way, the KOA way, make your nuts look the nuts. And that's important when you're slapping them on a boardroom table to negotiate, KOA style. Get 20% off and free delivery with the code KOA at manscaped.com. Hello, friends, and welcome to the latest Kings of Anglia podcast, brought to you in association with Manscaped. That's right, we've got a new sponsor. It's very exciting indeed. We're going to get onto that in a little bit. I'm your host, Mark Heath. I'm delighted to say the whole damn gang is here. It's not been a little while since we've been able to sit down and do one of these, all four of us, and fittingly, we can today. We've got a new sponsor. Someone else has got a new sponsor too, and we're going to get into that very shortly. First of all, the man who apparently has not seen any films made between 1980 to 2000. Hutch Hogan, Andy Warren, how are you?
Untrue. I've seen Dunstan Checks In. That was an absolute banger. Seen that?
What on earth is that?
It's great. It's about a monkey who's mates with a hotel manager and causes a bit of trouble. Absolute banger of a film.
I need to add that. I'm missing out. It's a big cultural gap there in my knowledge, having not seen that. Next up, the greatest producer, formerly the greatest producer on planet Earth when we used to have a studio, now wearer of one of the greatest beards on planet Earth, Mr. Roscoe. Ross Halls, how are you?
I'm very well. It feels like a long time ago now since we're last in that studio, that cramped studio, which we liked because we were able to touch each other's knees and stuff. Move on.
Yeah, good job. Yep. Those weren't filmed back in the day, weren't they, boys? And finally, the star of the show, live from his nan's bedroom. Men want to be him, women want to be with him, especially now he's got Manscaped backing him. The Dr. Stuart Watson, how are you, my bald friend?
I feel like I need to say something weird because Andy's talked about, I assume, a child's film that no one's ever seen before. Ross is talking about touching each other. That's the most ridiculous intro I've ever been given. No one has ever said that about me before. I'm okay. I'm pleased to be here with you all.
Can I just confirm you are at your nan's? Because you are incredibly compassionate and lovely grandson. You're spending now Thursdays at your nan's looking after her whilst breaking worldwide news on Ipswich Town's new sponsor.
I am. I'm at my nan's house, yeah.
Tremendous. Right then, boys, as I say, we've got a new sponsor, manscaped.com. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. You don't want to miss that, trust me, because there's going to be some fire in the park when we start talking about shaving our ball sacks. But first of all, boys, Ipswich Town, fittingly, on the same day we launch our new sponsor, Ipswich Town have got a new sponsor, and it's making headlines across the country and probably across the globe, because Ipswich Town are now sponsored by one of the biggest musical stars on planet Earth. Certainly one of the biggest in terms of sales, one of the biggest in terms of riches, and he's a proper Suffolk boy. Ed Sheeran is now the new shirt sponsor of Ipswich Town. Tremendous. We're going to talk about that in full. But I want to say, first of all, I think this is brilliant. I don't see any way that people can be slagging this off. Ed Sheeran is a proper Suffolk boy. He's worked his way up through doing about 1 million concerts a year, busking all over the place, to the point that he's now at where he can afford to sponsor his boyhood football team. That is an inspiring story. That's what sport and dreams are all about. That's it. That's my say. Stewie, tell us more about the deal. How much is it worth?
They wouldn't say. They did a little brief press conference with Rosie Richardson, who is the director of sales at the football club. She would only say it's a significant sum this morning. So it's not like they've given this away. Obviously, every penny of income counts for Ipswich, especially while they're in League One at the moment. So he's obviously put a bit of a wedge of cash into there. He's worth a few bob, is Ed. You're prone to a little bit of hyperbole from time to time, Mark, but there's certainly no exaggeration to call Ed Sheeran one of the biggest music artists, one of the most famous people, certainly in the music world globally, breaking all sorts of records. I think it's great. I know there'll be a few people, other football fans, taking the piss, and it's probably not cool to like Ed Sheeran and his music, but do you know what? He's one of ours. He's a proper Suffolk boy, and I love the fact that he is really proud of his roots in Suffolk. Mentions Suffolk in a lot of his songs, and has done the stuff with Christchurch Park and loads of charity stuff he's done across the county, and now this as well. And he's a proper fan as well, by the way. We've seen him at EFL trophy games. We've seen him at Portman Road several times, haven't we? So it is genuine. He's posted that picture today. He must be, how old must he be in that picture? That's a late 90s.
Yeah,
is it?
Probably 98. He's probably going to be. What would he be?
Well, he's 30 now.
He's
isn't
30
he?
now. 30 now. He's probably 9.
Yeah.
I'm not having that, by the way, Stu. Me and hyperbole. Hutchie, what do you think about the greatest musician of all time sponsoring Ipswich Town?
Jedward weren't available. They've gone for Ed Sheeran. No, I'm with you on that. You can't. What's to knock? I think the logo looks quite good. To be fair, it's a bit cryptic. It's clearly some kind of tour, greatest hits vibe going on. He says that's all going to be revealed in the future. What he's up to next in terms of touring and albums and stuff. I think the logo looks quite nice in itself. It's not just Ed Sheeran. It's not his name or anything like that. It's his album logos, tour logos, things like that. It looks quite good on there. And it's not just going to be in terms of the lump sum that Ed is obviously putting in as a sponsorship deal here. There's going to be benefits, so many benefits for the football club, aren't there? I think whatever shirt they design that this ultimately gets paired with is going to absolutely fly, and not just among the normal people that would buy a football shirt year in, year out. There'll be people in Ipswich and beyond who fancy owning this shirt because it's got his logo on it, and it might even drag in a few more fans, which hopefully at the start of a new era for the club and things going upwards is going to be a good thing. The best bit about all this is the quote from Ed that he put out as part of it, where he basically he described Ipswich's football over the last 2 or 3 years as being slightly on the huh, which is a really good description of what the football's been like for a little while. So it's not really anything to grumble about, is there? It looks great.
I think it's great on two counts. You've got the story of Sheeran, the personal story, and the kind of almost, well, not rags to riches, but certainly self-made multi-millionaire that he is, getting himself into this position. I think that is fantastic. That's a story that anyone in any walk of life can take inspiration from. And plus now teaming it with Ipswich Town, the exposure that's going to generate for the club, not just across the country, but across the world, because Sheeran's got fans all over the place. And as you rightly say, Hutchie, it may even push Ipswich Town into new areas abroad. Obviously, we've got the new American owners as well. Roscoe, we know that you're not the biggest fan of Ed Sheeran's music, but surely as an Ipswich Town fan, you can see the beauty of this deal.
Yes, I think it's fantastic, exposure for the club. At least it's not a gambling website or whatever. At least it's not Magical Vegas, because that was just horrendous from start to finish, from the original logo to, just Magical Vegas in general. Who knew Magical Vegas? But yeah, I think it's fantastic. He's a Town fan, and he goes to games. At least it's not one of those who say, yeah, I'm a fan, but he never goes to games. As Andy said, he went to the EFL trial. I think he went to Colchester, didn't he? He went to the Colchester game when we lost.
Loves the EFL trophy, which is a massive, massive tick in my book.
But yeah, I think it's just massive globally. I think we'll get new fans, even if they, don't really actually watch the games. They'll go, yeah, I just want to buy the shirt because that's going to be a one-of-a-kind shirt. Because is it just one season he's sponsoring?
So it's a 1-year deal for now, but they've kind of open-ended to see where they go from there. So, we'll see if it goes further. And they were asked whether there could be potential for a gig at Portman Road at some stage, and that was a watch this space kind of answer there. Obviously, this tour that's coming up. Obviously, the last tour, the record-breaking tour, the world's biggest tour ever, eclipsing U2. This is the scale of Ed Sheeran. Finished at Chantry Park. Could another one have a little Portman Road stop or finish on it? We'll see.
Fantastic. And Hutch, as you rightly say there, clearly when we get Ed on KOA, which can't be that far away, you and him are going to have some serious stuff to talk about. Your love for the Papa John's trophy, something that maybe only you and him share.
Exactly. We've got that. I actually got I'm sure everyone's seen by now the little picture that he's put up on his Instagram today of him in his Ipswich shirt from between the years of 97 and 99. I got my version of that out of my box on top of the wardrobe earlier. Almost got stuck in it. Very, very tight. But we can talk about football shirts till the cows come home. But
anything else to mention on this, boys, before we move on to our own big sponsorship deal, which is almost as sensational as exciting?
New dawn, baby. New dawn.
New dawn, exactly. Now then, I mean, in terms of peek behind the scenes, obviously Sheeran is a member of the KOA Army. He came to us first before even thinking about sponsoring the club. He said, boys, I want to sponsor the podcast, but I've listened to it. The boy Ross slags me off quite a lot. He needs to go. And we said, no, Sheeran. Ross is part of the team. Go and sponsor the club instead. So that left us looking for a new sponsor. Unfortunately, an American firm is in. Manscaped.com, boys. We're going to talk about this shortly. But first of all, I have to do a little bit of reading. So support for Kings of Anglia is brought to you by Manscaped, who are the best in men's below-the-waist grooming. Manscaped offers precision-engineered tools for your family jewels. Manscaped is trusted by over 2 million men worldwide. So join the movement for all your below-the-waist grooming needs and get 20% off and free delivery by using the code KOA at manscaped.com. That's the code KOA at manscaped.com. So all you members of the KOA Army, please use that code and buy yourself some quality Manscaped goods. Now then, I'll just warn you, for the next 5 minutes or so, we are going to chat about shaving our bollocks, because that is what Manscaped products are all about. So legs and hands inside the car. This could be a bumpy ride. Stewie, you're at your nan, so I'm hoping she's not within earshot as you start talking about this. But first of all, boys, I just want to say, before Manscaped got in touch with us, me and Hutchie, already dedicated Manscaped users, weren't we?
Evangelists.
It will come as no surprise to anyone probably who listens to this show and follows us across social media. I'm quite vain. And therefore, I've been shaving the lads for quite some time. And let me tell you, after discovering Manscaped, it's certainly a step above everything else I've used before. This is their new product, the Manscaped Lawnmower 3.0. That sort of noise it makes, just to give you a little thing. It's got all sorts of cool stuff. For me, though, the best thing about it is it's got a little light you can probably see if you're watching on video, and it's waterproof, so you can use it in the shower, which means there's no clearing up of all your pubes if you've left it a little while in your grooming regime. Hutchie, as a fellow manscaper, this is big stuff, isn't it? I mean, obviously, we only put our name to products we very much endorse and use. It's good stuff, isn't it, mate?
I've been manscaping for a year to 18 months now. This is my original. This is my lawnmower 2.0. I've now upgraded, like yourself, to a lawnmower 3.0. That's currently charging next door on the USB charging dock, ready to go. But they've upped the RPM on it. Yours will sound much faster, and the new one is fantastic. I love the shaver, but I like their products as well. crop preserver. That's your ball deodorant. That'll do you. Every single day that goes on. Crucially, crop reviver ball toner.
That is the stuff.
Tone your balls.
Exactly.
And this is a message to you and Ross there, Stu. Tone your balls. I don't know if you've started toning them yet, but tone your balls.
Hey,
Your
Ross
balls
is still
thank you.
Ross is still young. He maybe doesn't need to worry about that yet, but certainly as a man of advancing years myself, I need to get the tone right on that ball sack. So yeah, I'm buzzing for this. Stewie and Ross. Stewie, have you used your Manscaped goods yet?
I have. Full disclosure, I probably got a little bit carried away on the first time.
Have you gone?
More's come off than probably was needed.
Yeah. Have you gone full Chaplow down there?
Not quite, but I might not have gone sort of as closely shaved as I have done. But
did you not use your shaving guard? Did you not use this?
Wasn't aware there was a shaving guard, so that's where the problems come from. Clip
that on in the little white bag, and you'll stop looking like an action man. You'll be fine.
Exactly. I mean, I've got to say to you, I'm with you. I look like a 9-year-old choir boy down there at the moment. I'm talking about.
I was going to say childlike. I didn't know. Yeah. I should take it there, but
that's what it is. Yeah. Each to their own. The only hair on my body right now is what you see on my face if you're watching this, and a bit on my legs. And I've accidentally shaved my legs before with this as well. Roscoe, you are the hairiest of the bunch, the most hirsute, probably the one with the balls most looking like Ivan Campo. Have you managed to jump onto Manscaped, and have you decided what you're going to go with? You're going to go with the jet little strip down there. What are you going to do?
I haven't done the shaving bit yet, but I've used a bit of the moisturiser. You know, Sasha sniffed it and she liked it.
She approved.
So she approved. So you know, no more smelly ball sacks. But yeah, I'm a bit scared to shave the balls. I've never actually done it before.
Now then, Roscoe, you're right to be scared, because anyone who's ever done it before, it's a very delicate area down there. And back in the day, using inferior products, the wife's lady shave, that sort of thing, very often, one nicked one's testicular skin, which is very thin and bleeds like you would not believe. It looked like a murder scene in the bathroom one time for just a little cut. But fortunately with this, Hutchie, as we'll be able to tell our listeners, this has got a ceramic blade, doesn't it? Which means you're far less likely to cut yourself, which is great. And as I say, being able to use it in the shower and with the light, you can definitely see what's going on down there. It's
I didn't put the guard on. I didn't put the guard on because I wasn't aware of one. I went absolutely to town and there's no problems at all. So if that sort of calms anybody's nerves, Ross, yours included, that's all I can say.
What's obviously Mrs. Heath and Mrs. Warren are more than used to me and Hutchie looking like plucked turkeys down there. What's Mrs. Watson said to your new look, Stewie?
I did this yesterday, and she's yet to be made aware of the results thus far. So I'll return with a review next time.
Superb. Maybe do a film that, get the big reveal. We can put that out as well.
Yeah, please do. At this point, Mark, I think it's probably worth saying as well. Yeah, it's called Manscaped. There's nothing to stop a lady, any lady listeners using these.
100%, absolutely.
Oh, look, he'll be fine.
I think this is the best multi-purpose, intimate shaving tool there is on the market. And as I say, you can get 20% off plus free delivery using code KOA at manscaped.com. I'm really pleased, that we've got a special code for it, and listeners to this show can use that code and get discounts, because it honestly, 100% genuinely, not just because they've sent us some free stuff and I've got a Manscaped t-shirt on like a proper fool. They are proper good stuff. So yeah, get involved in that. Manscaped.com, KOA is the code, 20% off plus free delivery. Now then, boys, anything else you want to mention about your nuts before we move on to a bit of a news roundup?
No other business on the nuts.
Oh, I must say, Stu, by the way, when I first mentioned the deal to Mrs. Heath, her first reaction upon telling that we'd be getting some free Manscaped goods was that, Stu, that's great news for Stu because he can now match his bollocks to his head. That genuinely is what she said.
Is that just fine? Just calling me bald all the time? Is that, if I was ginger, or I mean, it's fine.
Where's Stu? Stu is so outraged he's turned his Wi-Fi off. Is everyone there still?
I'm still here. Okay,
yeah?
I'm back.
We are back. Stu, sorry.
Disappear for me as well.
Come back at me.
Stop calling me bald. I want my hair.
That's fact, my friend. Anyway, let's move on, boys. After that brief Wi-Fi failing, I hope that didn't spoil your enjoyment too much of our chat about the old sack shaving there, KOA Army. News, boys. There's been a lot happening. Obviously, Town, since we last spoke, have played 2 games. They won at Swindon and then drew 0-0 at Shrewsbury on Tuesday night. You certainly deserve medals for going all the way there on a Tuesday night to watch that. What I want to start with, though, is some news that came out yesterday. Not unexpected, but interesting nonetheless. Stephen Ward has departed. Town will definitely be looking for a new left back next season. Hutchie, first of all, your thoughts on Ward? We were all expecting it in the big contract discussion. We all said he would probably need to go. But is Miles Kenlock going to be able to step up and take that role next season? What do you reckon?
Deal with Kenlock first. I think they'll look for a new left back this summer. Regardless, I think they'll go in and look for one ahead of Miles in that. Miles has proven, I think, that he can be the backup. But in terms of Ward, honestly, I think the day he signed, I think we all probably felt that was perhaps a 1-year rental kind of stopgap agreement. Started off really well, didn't he? He brought some leadership to the team. He was vocal, experience. Got up, him and Chambers were bombing up and down the flanks, and then he got injured at MK Dons with an Achilles problem, and really, despite a few peaks, didn't recover back to his former self from then on. I don't think you can knock his professionalism. Model pro would have helped Kenlock over the last year or so, but like you say, I don't think there's any great surprise that they're moving on from Stephen Ward for next season.
Stu, any thoughts on the left back situation? Would you be happy if at the start of next season, when Ed Sheeran's doing his pre-game concert, the American boys are there waving the stars and stripes? There's cheerleaders on the pitch. There's fireworks overhead. There's a flyby from RAF Lakenheath. 15 F-16s flying over Portman Road, and Miles Kenlock trots out to start a left back. What are you saying? Are you happy?
Controversial view, but I wouldn't be devastated. I think Miles Kenlock is absolutely fine for League One at the moment. I think he's played 100 games now already. He's got a sneaky high number of appearances for the club, so he's a reasonable age now, reasonable experience. Could he be upgraded? Yes, but there might be positions to prioritise above that. They'll need a left back, and they'll probably go for a number 1 left back, but I think the times that he's come into the team, and again, the last couple of games, I think he's got forward quite well. I'm okay with Miles Kenlock.
Roscoe, we know you're a big fan of the way he runs. Also, his carbohydrate loading method. What's it? If Miles Kenlock is a starting left back next season, are you happy, Ross?
As Stu said, I thought he's done okay this season. It's probably been his better season. He is a League One player, so if he starts, he starts. But I don't think, left back is probably a top of Paul Cook's list of signings, because there's other positions we need to improve in. But it's definitely a position I want to improve in. And on Stephen Ward, as Andy said, it was a stopgap 1-year signing. He did it right, when he first signed, but then he just can't cross a ball. And you're a left back. We need a left back and cross a ball. But anyway,
fullbacks are going to be massive for Cook. They are one of the most important players in his team. I think this 4-2-3-1 system is all about fullbacks bombing on and playing as wingers. So I'm sure, as Andy says, he will probably go for a first choice left back in the summer. But I think for a squad player, that Miles is absolutely fine. And you've only got to look at Josh Emmanuel, who has gone on and been part of a whole team that's got promoted and been a key player for there. I don't think there was much between Emmanuel and Kenlock during their sort of academy progress at Ipswich Town. Josh has kind of kicked on recently. I still think there's more improvement to come from Miles if he gets a run.
On the subject of fullback, that gives us an excuse to go back and talk about the games that have been played very briefly. I don't want to dwell too much on them because obviously they're meaningless, and one of them particularly wasn't that exciting. But at the end of the game at Shrewsbury on Tuesday, Kane Vincent-Young again went down injured. Looked like he'd maybe dislocated his shoulder, like it maybe been popped back in. Certainly was in a lot of pain at the end of the game. First of all, is there any update on Kane? Can we just talk positive vibes only Just a few brief thoughts on those games. I know, Stewie, you were impressed with Dobra on Tuesday. So KVY, first of all, Stewie, is there any update there?
I haven't heard anything. I haven't asked the question actually since Tuesday, but we'll try and find out. Paul Cook's doing a press conference first thing tomorrow, so I'm sure we'll get an update on that. All that was said on the night was Kieran Dyer came out to do post-match press and said he was the pain had settled down quite quickly, and hopefully that's a sign that it's not as bad as first feared, and they popped it back in, and it's all will be good. I'd be amazed if he's involved against Fleetwood on Sunday, but hopefully all good for pre-season, because he is, talking about fullbacks under Paul Cook, he is the absolute perfect type of fullback that Paul Cook wants to work with, and he's been pretty bright since he's finally come back into the team. So gutted for him, just can't catch break at the moment. Other positives, I thought there was quite a few positives to take from this. We've seen some pretty shitty 0-0 draws, haven't we, in recent weeks? But this was a better one. This was a more entertaining one. Both teams could have scored goals. Ipswich progressed the ball, worked some really good positions. The last little bit in the final third, the bit of decision making wasn't quite there. They weren't clinical when the chances did come, but in their general play, I thought was better, and I thought we could see some signs of what Paul Cook football's going to be all about next season. Hopefully, with some upgraded players across the pitch.
And just talk a bit about Dobra, Stewie, because in your post-game comments, the bit you dropped on Wednesday, the Stew says observations, you referred to him as a bit like Wayne Rooney, in that he kind of, obviously a poor man's Wayne Rooney, but in terms, I think what you're saying is the way he sort of plays on the edge, doesn't he, between kind of bubbling over into anger and making rash decisions, but also using that kind of fire to fuel what he does on the pitch.
Yeah, stylistically, I'm not quality wise, I'm not for 1 minute putting him on the same pedestal as a young Wayne Rooney, but in the same way that, I mean, when Rooney first burst on the scene, he was sort of described as the last of the street footballers, someone that you could see sort of just playing Wembley doubles with his mates out on the street sort of thing. And I get that sense a bit with Dobra as well. Dyer, in fact, called him a street fighter after the game. It's on the ball, he's really fun to watch. He's got great close ball control, just takes people on, tries to make things happen. And off the ball as well, he's scrappy, he's feisty, he presses, he closes down as well. So, yes, he's raw. Yes, there is still things that need sorting out with him. I think sometimes he's guilty of overplaying. Sometimes walks that line between silly fouls and yellow cards and red cards. We know he's got that in his locker, but I'd rather someone has that innate fire in the belly and you're looking to dial that down rather than trying to kind of inject it. I don't know if you can put that into someone. You've either got it or you're not, and Dobra's got it. So again, probably not a starter for next season, but he's probably played himself into Paul Cook's plans in terms of that tight squad that he might want to work with.
That's exactly what you said, Hutch, in your excellent player ratings. You said that he's played himself into a real role next season. Give me some more positives. Swindon and Shrewsbury games. I want positive vibes only. So give us some positives.
I think we're starting to see the real Luke Wolfenden again after a season that he's himself has described as bang average at best. Probably, I would say. But the last couple of weeks, especially on Tuesday night, I thought he was kind of the old Luke Wolfenden. He read the game well. He was good on the ball. He moved around the field well and looked after the forwards well as well, nipping in, picking up possession and playing it off nicely into midfield. Again, like Vincent Young, Wolfenden should be the kind of centre back that Cook wants to work with. It's just we haven't seen him put it together this year. It's been a bad season for him and so many others, but I think the last 2 or 3 weeks maybe a bit more hope that the old Luke Wolfenden could come back in pre-season and again play himself into a 20-man squad to then have the chance to fight for a starting 11 place. I think there's a lot of players that will be in that situation. I don't think there are many there now that would be nailed on starters in Paul Cook's mind at the moment. What they are doing is playing themselves into the squad, and it is going to be a small squad. And if you're in a small squad, you've got a chance to start. So I think both Wolfenden and Dobra maybe have done that over the last few weeks.
Roscoe, positive vibes only. Any other players have played their way into Cook's plans, do you think? Any other positives we can draw from those two games? Town going unbeaten, of course, over those two games.
I watched the Swindon game with my nan.
Nice.
That was nice. That was the first time she's watched us this season. She knows we've been terrible, but she enjoyed just watching on the telly. And we saw a win. We saw goals. You know, the 10-hour duck has been broke, so we scored goals. Although they were given to us, really. But it was good to see Norwood on the score sheet and, you know, backfiring again. Downs looking like his normal self. You know, he's got over that injuries he's been having. And yeah, it's just, I feel like, as Andy said and Stu's been saying, you know, I feel like Cook, the formation is now there. You know, we just need players to fit that formation. And yeah, hopefully we're going to end the season unbeaten. Hopefully we get a win against Fleetwood. But yeah.
We'll see. I'm going to give you another positive, boys. Kieran Dyer being involved in the first team and speaking to the media after the game. We've talked on here pretty much all season about how deeply Kieran thinks about football and how much he's gone away and tried to add stuff to his knowledge of the game. I think he's probably still got a reputation as a bit of a bad boy from his playing days, stuff you've seen him on TV maybe. But he is a very, very deep thinker. And his passion for Ipswich Town certainly came across in that interview. I mean, referring to the players as fragile. I just thought it was a really, really raw, kind of more open interview than you'd normally expect from someone, a manager coming out after the game. We know obviously Paul Cook has set new levels for open and raw. But Stu, you were talking to Kieran. You get on very well with Kieran. It's just good to see him involved in the first team, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. He sort of said himself the last 6-7 weeks he's learned a hell of a lot. Working closely under Paul Cook, there was a little barb towards kind of maybe feeling he was kept on the outside looking in during Paul Lambert's time there, but Paul Cook straight away has come in and maybe seen his experience and utilised that. And the two of them, I think, are bouncing off of each other quite well at the moment. So who knows what this backroom staff shake-up is going to look like over the summer. Kieran's was very open in the fact that he doesn't think, just like the players, every member of staff is fearing for their future at the moment. Even someone like Brian Clew, who've been part of the furniture for a long, long time. We've been talking a lot about this culture of comfort that maybe has crept in over time at the club and how that's maybe seeped into every single pore throughout the place. So he's not taking anything for granted. He's really enjoyed his time working with Paul, but I think the two of them have seemed to be working quite well as a relationship so far. And there's every chance his name will be in the frame for number 2 this summer with Liam Richardson obviously staying on at Wigan.
I was going to ask you about that, Hutchie. Liam, we know it's not going to be Liam Richardson. He's at Wigan. Town do still need a number 2. Would you be happy with Kieran Dyer as number 2 at Town? Give me some odds as to how likely you think that might be.
I can't give you odds. I don't know if Paul Cook would know the answer to that question at the moment, but I feel sure he's going to be involved in the first team. Whether that's as the official number 2 or not, I don't know. But I would be very surprised at this point now if he suddenly slips back into just being the manager of the under-23s. I'd be really surprised actually, because it's quite a big thing for a manager to trust another member of staff to go out and speak publicly about his team after a game. I think a manager really does have to trust someone to allow them to do that. There was a theory that Paul Cook didn't fancy doing it again on Tuesday night because it was a significant walk from the away dressing room to get round to where the camera was. But honestly though, in all seriousness, it is a big thing for a manager to trust someone to go out and speak about the team after a game. So for Paul to be putting that trust in Kieran, it's pretty big, really.
One thing I'll say about Kieran is he won't be a yes man, and I think Paul Cook will respect that. It will be someone that will give him unfiltered views and will bounce backwards and forwards off of each other. And I think there has been quite a lot of that so far. And so that's where a bit of trust and respect is built between those two. Gary Roberts has obviously come in, but this is his first coaching job. I think he's got to go and get his coaching badges this summer to even be sort of qualified for that. So I think Kieran would kind of be ahead of Gary in that respect. John McGrill's kind of been doing bits and pieces at the club, so whether that's on the cards or not, we're not quite sure. I don't know whether Paul sees John as a sort of a good friend, and whether that is a line that you kind of want to cross if you've got a relationship away from football. Who knows? But every chance Kieran could be involved, and I think that would be great. He's someone that as you say, he's a fan as much as he is anything else as well. And people forget the respect that needs to be on Kieran's name as a player as well. He was part of the so-called golden generation when people talk about Beckham and Scholes and Lampard and Rio, and he 30 odd caps for England during that time when that caliber of player was that high. People forget that, and probably would have been even more caps if it wasn't for the horrendous injuries that he kept getting as well. So to have a player of that ilk on your doorstep and caring that much about the club, maybe Ipswich have taken that for granted a little bit. So it's great that he's involved in a more central role now.
You could see that on Tuesday night. A lot of the kind of the Shrewsbury media folk from the radio, newspaper, stewards, someone came down from the executive areas. They were fascinated to see that Kieran was there and doing this interview. I think one of them tried to get kind of a sneaky picture taken with him during the interview and things like that. He and I think he surprised a lot of those people, because obviously you've said, Mark, that people perhaps look at him and don't see the full picture from what they've seen kind of in the media over the years. And I think a lot of the people that were at the Montgomery Waters Meadow on Tuesday night probably were a bit surprised to hear him speaking that way, because that's not the Kieran Dyer that they were kind of sold through red top newspapers and things like that. So he definitely does. He carries some weight, and he's clearly a very good coach as well. Because if you speak to any, particularly the young players that have come through his under 18s and then through the 23s, they speak so highly of him. They really do. Like Armando Dobra is one, for an example, who he regularly says kind of how much he owes to Kieran Dyer. He's clearly made an impression on some young players through the club.
Absolutely. I mean, 10 years ago, if you just said to me that Kieran Dyer would one day be Ipswich Town manager, I'd have said, you're crazy. There's no chance of that happening. But now I'd say 50-50. I would like to see him one day be Ipswich Town manager, I think, with the dealings we've had with him, with his knowledge of the game, his passion for the club, his standing in the game, as you say, Stu, to be able to come out after the game and call the players fragile. Kieran Dyer saying that, someone who played 33 times for England and was truly elite, way above the level that these players are at Ipswich Town at the moment. You have to have that kind of backing to be able to say stuff like that and get people to respect it and hear it. So 100%, I hope Kieran's got a big part to play in the future of Ipswich Town. In terms of the future, Hutchie, you broke a story earlier this week in terms of departures potentially and the future of the club. Someone who's been a big part of the history of Ipswich Town, certainly over the past few years, a couple of players, Luke Chambers, Cole Hughes and Freddie Sears, all potentially being of interest to Colchester United, all out of contract, obviously. We think Freddie Sears and Cole Hughes almost certainly out the door. Luke Chambers hasn't played since the Demolition Man press conference. Cook has said before there would be something for him potentially this summer. Just your thoughts on this story and how you feel about it.
I feel like it makes a lot of sense for all involved. It obviously depends on what Ipswich do. I think we can sit here now and be pretty sure that Freddie Sears and Cole Hughes will probably move on this summer. Luke Chambers is a little bit different because, as you say, Cook has said there will be something on the table for him. See which way that one goes. But he's stressed that he wants to play on. And you know what? I think I'd be fascinated to see them all move down to Colchester. There's a definite interest there. How far that goes, we'll wait and see. I'm sure at least one of those players will end up playing for Colchester United next season. I'd be really interested to see it. I think it's perfect for them. Should they move on from Ipswich, it would be a club, meaning at their stage of their careers, they don't have to move. Got young families, settled in school, settled in the area, all three of those, and could carry on playing football. It'd be quite the band, the dad's army, band of brothers vibe down there with Dean Gherkin and Tommy Smith there already from the playoff team of 2015. So I'd be fascinated to see it.
Can we get the whole lot back together? So we could have Gherkin in goal. Who are we missing? You're going to be struggling to
need Berra.
Mings down to Colchester, aren't you? That's going to be a
Paul Anderson's a free agent.
I think Berra's a free agent as well, isn't he? So
Berra, J Tab, probably get him out of retirement as well if he can get him away from the horses and the golf course for a little bit.
Bishop might be a free agent yet. You never know.
Murphy, get him to come out of retirement. McGoldrick again. struggling to
Tough
get him
sell.
away from the Prem, but or Championship. But yeah, that's
What
really getting the band back together.
What do you make of that story, Roscoe? Would you be happy if those three walked out the door and rocked up down the road at Colchester? We've talked about Chambers before as being a lightning rod for debate and kind of passionate arguments both sides of the fence. Sears and Skews, to me, it seems a no-brainer they're going to go out the door. But what about Chambo?
He's very Marmite, and he's very a very good debate sort of discussion to have on him. I think it would have been nice maybe for him to have that one more year so he can have that testimonial. I know he's not been part of a very successful side, but I think anybody who's stayed at a club for that long has got to get some sort of, well done for that, because nowadays not many players stay at a club for even like 2 years now, for 10 years. If he does get to that stage, he's got to, but I think it is time. I think he's going to be 36 in September, whenever his birthday is. I think it is time. But if he does stay for one more year, he won't play many games, but he'll at least have that testimonial. We haven't had a testimonial since Fabian Wilness, I think it was.
36.
Spot on, Ross. Whatever you think about Luke Chambers, it's sad for me that if this is the end of his career, that it ends in this kind of COVID season with no fans there. He's, again, whatever you think of him, has been one of their most consistent players, still managed to play. He's in the top number of appearance makers this season. It would be a sad way for him to kind of just fade away from the scene if that's the way it is. But it's a new era for Ipswich, and ultimately there's probably no room for sentiment. I know Paul Cook's spoken about him having a role there's a role there if he wants it, which is open to interpretation. But another theory is if he wants to carry on playing, which clearly him and Cole have said they want to, you can go to Colchester and you might even be able to combine that with a bit of coaching at Ipswich at the same time and almost start your coaching journey at Ipswich while still playing for Colchester. I mean, Matt Bloomfield has been coaching at Ipswich and being able to commute and play for Wickham despite living in Felixstowe. So it can be done.
Colchester as well is there's a well-trodden path there for people within the camp at Colchester kind of working their way up into management coaching roles at Colchester. So we know that those two have spoken so many times about a management future for them as Chambers as number one and Skews as number two. I would suggest that Colchester is a more realistic route for that to happen as a first job than Ipswich. Once the chickens are in the coop, you can work your magic from within, can't you?
What do you make, boys, of Chambers? I mean, since the Demolition Man press conference, Chambers has been on the bench every single game. He's not started. Cook has said that he's been one of the best players. He said there's a future for him. Do you think there's any mileage in the fact he's just said to Luke, look, we're not going to need you for the rest of the season. Rest up. You'll have a role to play next season. Or is it? I mean, I know it's really hard to say because there's mixed messages. But what's your take on that, Stewie? Chambers kind of being on the bench pretty much full time now.
I didn't read anything into it to start with, but then after the 3-0 to, what was the second 3-0, Northampton, the second time around, and when he didn't come back into the team off the back of that, I could kind of see the logic in they changed their centre-halves after the 3-0 to Wimbledon. But then for them not to revert back certainly to Luke Chambers after that one, I was a little bit surprised, and then that was the moment it started to feel a little bit more significant for me. But that said, for all the lack of goals, they have been keeping a lot of clean sheets as well. But for me, I'd have had Luke Chambers back in, even if you've made your decision on him to go. Paul Cook's talked about sort of taking some of these decisions with a bit of class. I think certainly allowing Luke Chambers to get to the 400 appearance mark would have been a classy way to do things, even if you knew that he was going. Certainly once the season was gone, and it's not like you're kind of making sentimental decisions that could potentially jeopardise getting in the playoffs. I think I'd have been giving Luke Chambers the last few games over Mark McGuinness, unless you've got plans to bring Mark McGuinness back in, which I'd be surprised by.
Okay, well, regardless of what happens with Chambers, if he goes or even if he stays, he'd like to be in a new role. Town are going to be looking probably for a new on-field captain. The man who's filled that role, perhaps surprisingly, Hutchie, for the last couple of games, James Norwood, another bit of a Marmite character, a kind of lightning rod for debate amongst fans, particularly those who are disgusted that these players have private lives when they're not doing very well in the league. Your thoughts on Norwood as a captain? Because he's very much, he's not a kind of lead by example sort of captain, is he? He's a bit of a Jack the Lad character and playing up front as well. Potential future Town captain for you full time?
I don't think so. I see this one as Paul Cook putting a bit of faith in a player that he wants to fire up, and I'm led to believe he's told James that he's pretty central to what he wants to try and do going forward. And I think putting the armband on his gun for what a couple of 3 games, boy, is a way of just showing James that look, you're a big man for me. Go and have a bit of responsibility, and let's see how you handle that. Maybe it's just an act of love in many ways. And I think sometimes, despite the front that James does put on, particularly over the internet, I think that's something that would actually have meant an awful lot to him, and could be really beneficial. But I would be surprised if we suddenly are writing stories in July, August time of James Norwood is the new full-time Ipswich Town captain. There, that could well be someone that's brought in, I would say.
There's only one, surely, candidate, isn't there, Ross, outside of Norwood? If he's still here and there's no one brought in to be captain, it's got to be Flynn, hasn't it?
Yeah, I think so, because he's passionate, he's vocal, and he's the focal point in that midfield. But maybe Paul Cook maybe feels like he's still maybe not mature enough. Maybe I don't know, or maybe he's still in that bracket of like he's not a youngster anymore, but he's still not the senior player, if you know what I mean. But with Norwood being captain, you don't really see many forwards as captain, do you? Really, it's normally a midfielder or centre half. I think a goalkeeper, that is just why you're a captain. A goalkeeper shouldn't be a captain, but definitely Flynn. There's no one else really in that squad because Wolforden, he's too laid back in here. I don't think he would be shouting out orders. I think maybe, as Andy said, maybe bring in somebody, maybe someone who Cook knows and he can rely on him and who's got that captain material, maybe. But Downs would be my choice if we don't bring any player like that.
Just on the note there of bringing people in, Stewie, just to dot the I's and cross the T's, as we like to do on this show, Town did bring someone in this week, a new Director of Performance, Andy Rolls, formerly of the Premier League, got a very impressive CV, coming over from Bristol City with Mark Ashton. He's been at Arsenal, he's been at West Ham, he's been at Watford. As I say, very, very impressive CV in terms of Premier League experience. Another kind of upgrade and a good move forward for Town, do you reckon?
I think so. You've just reeled off that CV to get someone who's had those level of jobs to a League One club. We have to remind ourselves it has got to be seen as a coup. Obviously, someone that Ashton knows from a couple of clubs before. Delving into forums and Twitter and stuff, you'll see Bristol City fans sort of bemoaning the fact that he's been part of a club that's had a big injury list this season. Bristol City have had lots of hamstring problems, and I think a lot of that has come back on Andy Rolls. There was a piece in the Athletic, I think, with which Bristol City player was it, Andy?
Is it Joe Williams?
Joe Williams, I think, yeah, who was talking about, maybe he didn't agree with all the fitness plans that he'd been given during his rehab, and so that kind of shone a light back on their team. But what that says to me is I think we get trapped in our own little bubble sometimes of looking at our own clubs, and in Ipswich we've got the worst injury record in the whole country, and then you start to look elsewhere, and there's probably evidence that during this kind of COVID affected season with Saturday, Tuesday, injuries have been on the rise elsewhere. And we've talked about Kieran Dyer doing post-match. He mentioned Andy Rolls, and as someone that he worked under at West Ham towards the back end of his career, and spoke highly of him. So you don't get those sort of jobs that he's had at those sort of clubs by fluke, I'm sure. And it's not like Ipswich's injury situation has been fantastic. It can't get any worse than it has been. So yeah, it's got to be an upgrade, I'm sure.
Absolutely. And Roscoe, I want to come to you for this, because had this show happened a few days earlier and we didn't have all this exciting stuff to talk about, the thing we would have been talking about was Ipswich Town under 18s winning through to the semi-finals of the FA Youth Cup in remarkable fashion. Easily the best game that's been seen at Portman Road this season. They're going to play Liverpool in the semi-final next week. That's probably the most interesting and important game the entire club will play all season. Your thoughts, first of all, on the game itself, and what an achievement for these young boys, and how good was it to see Paul Cook in the dressing room afterwards, jumping up and down with the players? That's passion. It was brilliant, wasn't it?
Oh, mental. Like the previous round, so I think it was probably the fourth round when they beat Fulham. They won it in injury time. They were 2-1 down. They got equalised and make it 2-2, and then they went on to win it basically with the last kick of the game 3-2. And I thought that is not going to be topped this season. Well, this game did. We had a massive stoppage in like the second minute of the game. The Town goalkeeper, Anthony Bort, he had to be stretchered off because he basically, one of the, who were we playing again? Sheffield United's defenders basically went for the ball and he went for the ball, and they both, he had the bandage, Terry Butcher bandage on, and Bort, it was like at least about 15 minutes of stoppage, so, just mental game. Loads of chances, some good goals scored. We fought out. It was 2-1. Then Alcon Bagat, good old Alcon. That's not Bagat, is it?
It's Bagat, but let's say Bagat. It's fine.
Switch the A. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. He got the equaliser to make it 2-2, and then we went into extra time, and I thought, I don't know, could we do it? And we did do it, and I'm lost for words really right now because it was just absolutely mental. But yeah, probably the best game we've seen at Portland Road for a long time. Even not this season, but the many seasons that we've seen. It was a great achievement for the lads, and as you said, it was great to see Paul Cook there in the dressing room and celebrating with them, and a massive achievement. Definitely when he knew he had to go to Swindon to finish out the dead rubbers of the season. But,
just give us some names. You mentioned Baggett there. Obviously, we know Elkin is very much one of those guys who's fringe first team potentially. Give us some other names. Oh, is that your nan's phone?
That's right. We had this last time. Just
get it, and give him the Manscaped code.
shave your balls.
Yeah, KOA. Yeah, Roscoe, give us some names. Players who stood out other than Baggett.
Albie Arman, he's a fullback. He's very good. Cameron Humphreys, he's another fullback. He goes down the wing very well. Liam Gibbs, we already know of him. Of course, he's played a few times for the first team. Definitely, possibly a player that we could probably see in the first team maybe next season if he gets the opportunity. I think they all merit. Well done, really, because I think they all played really well. I'm so sorry, I'm really bad at this sort of thing when I get a question.
It's great to see such spirit amongst the youngsters and a few giant killings as well. And now they play another giant at Portman Road, Liverpool, next week. It's going to be Thursday or Friday, don't we? On BT Sport. Who was it who told me that? Was it you, Roscoe?
Andy, I think.
It was Andy.
That was me. But
sorry. Okay. BT Sport then at Portman Road. To watch Ipswich Town play Liverpool. How cool is that? I know it's the under-18s, but it's still exciting stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just a shame there's no fans going to be there, semi-final. I did the Youth Cup video recently, and, there was, for the final itself, it was 15,000 at Portland Road. That for those players, if some of them don't go on to make first-team appearances at the club or you don't have careers, what an opportunity to play in front of a massive crowd. But on telly, even for the Sheffield United game, there was still loads of cameras about, and there's got really, really exciting. Liverpool, they're Category 1 side, just like Sheffield United. So it shall be Sheffield United aren't, are they? The Category 2.
Category 2,
yeah, but
still, it's a massive club. Town will be the underdogs, but they've been the underdogs on several occasions already in this kind of fairy tale run, just like they were back in the day. Roscoe, as you mentioned, your excellent documentary on the 2005 winners, Town beating the star-studded Southampton in the final. Go back and watch that if you've not already. It is really, really good stuff from Roscoe. I know you're putting something together as well, looking at the UEFA Cup anniversary coming up in a couple of special podcasts. We'll talk about that maybe later on. Boys, the senior team coverers. From Ipswich Town winning through to the semi-final of the FA Youth Cup to Ipswich Town senior team hosting Fleetwood in the deadest of dead rubbers on Sunday to finish the season. Stuart Watson, you must be absolutely buzzing.
Yeah, we can finish somewhere between 9th and 14th now, I think, heading into this game. Fleetwood sort of marooned in a similar bottom half position. 6 0-0s from the last 10. Come on.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I'm slightly more upbeat for it off the back of the last couple of performances, which we've said have been better. But again, I don't want to go overboard. Let's not start jumping through hoops that they played a bit better in another 0-0 draw against Shrewsbury, who were bang out of form, by the way. So, yeah, I'm not going to go mad about the last couple of performances, but they have been better. There have been little glimpses of what we may see from a Cook side next season, but ultimately we just need to get Sunday done and dusted and out the way, and then all the interesting stuff starts to happen, doesn't it? The transfer rumour mill has already started to creak into action, and that is going to gather some serious pace, because although it's going to be a small squad that Cook wants to work with, you could probably make an argument that he's looking for virtually a player in every position this summer transfer window.
It's going to be sexy, isn't it, boys? It's going to be superb. Stewie, give me something you want to see. Positive vibes only on Sunday from Ipswich Town. Don't just say a goal. From Ipswich Town on Sunday, what would it be?
I'd like to see James Maud hit double figures again. He's one off of that at the moment, so he would be back-to-back double digits, which would be quite the feat for given how the team has struggled in 2 successive years and the injuries that James Norwood has had. And he sort of said how, Cook's spoken about him having a central role next season. I still think a fit and firing James Norwood could still be a big player for Ipswich next season. A little bit more progression from the likes of Wolfenden and Downs and Dazelle. I thought Downs and Dazelle actually showed signs of a good little partnership at the weekend. So see that develop a little bit more from Dobra, just the players that are going to be here next season. And just a little bit more of this 4-2-3-1 football that we're going to be seeing a lot of.
Hutchie, give me something you want to see positive on Sunday. What will make Hutchence, Alfred Hutchcock smile coming away from Portman Road on Sunday and think, that was decent. I'm glad I saw that.
I think Stu's covered everything that could possibly be positive in this game, but I'll be looking at this game. There's bound to be at least one player, if not more, on that pitch for Ipswich that won't play for the club again. That's what's going to interest me at the weekend. The team selection. I do half wonder, and I don't know this for a fact, whether there's been a contract trigger in Luke Chambers' contract, which has meant he's not been able to play. In Alan Judge's, it was very clear it was starts. Alan Judge could have sat on the bench for the rest of the season and come on in games and not triggered that contract, but they did. They came to an agreement that was not fair. That wasn't a fair thing, because he was deserving of a starting spot at that time, and they ultimately decided not to do anything with it. I do half wonder whether that might have been the case with Luke Chambers. Could they have been saving his final start for the final game of the season? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question, but I'm just fascinated to see who plays. And then I always do this. It's not going to be the same. There's no crowd there, but you analyse people at full time, don't you? You look at them and think, is that a wave goodbye? Is that kind of thing? So final day of the season, dead rubber always equals that kind of thing for me. So it'll be who's playing their final game.
And we're expecting, obviously, we already had Ward, we've had Judge, we know Hughes is on his way out the door. We expect it's Monday, Tuesday, isn't it? There's going to be a kind of decisions made, and we're expecting a kind of slew of news about players leaving early next week, boys.
Whether they announce it then, I don't know. The contract options all run till May, the third weekend of May. So I think it's something like May the 22nd. So that's when those contract options have to be picked up by. But yeah, there's every chance those decisions start getting discussed and come out before then. Okay.
That's us for today then. I just want to mention before we go, Roscoe, you've got the game day extra time posse, boys. Recording tonight will be out tomorrow. That's Friday lunchtime. I listened to it last week, Roscoe. When I was back from holiday, I was jet washing the patio. And I enjoyed it. I've got to be honest, I don't always listen to game day because sometimes it's best for me to have plausible deniability things that go on there. But I very much enjoyed a lot of the chat. Let me ask you this though: what's the beef between David and T-Segs? Because the boys are butting heads, aren't they? I mean, let's get them in a cage. Let's do an Arch and Charity fight night. I'd pay to see that. What's the deal there?
I think because they were the original two who decided to chat to me outside stadiums, and I think they're that's the beef there, and I think they just like to have a little who's better, shirt. No, I was about to say something different there, but I stopped myself. But no, I don't think there's no beef there. I think it's a friendly rivalry, but I think they just like to have that little bit of a head-to-head sort of thing. But
the
not every
battle.
week.
The battle to be your number one, Roscoe, which is a key battle. As I say, I'd be up for putting him in a cage. I think we could do some charity fights ourselves, boys. I've certainly got some ideas of people I'd like to fight. I also enjoyed the worst player ever question, Roscoe. I was amazed that Frank Noble didn't come up.
He wasn't that bad. He just couldn't control the football.
I was on the other note. I was very pleased that no one dare mention Saint Aaron Drynan's name. Because had that come out of anyone's mouth, I would have hunted them down like the dogs they are. Had they?
Happy birthday!
It's his birthday today.
I know, my friend. Don't you worry.
Where's your shirt? Where's your Drynan shirt?
It's just over there. I'm branded today, boys. I couldn't wear the Drynan shirt. Well, also because it's in a frame over there with a lovely picture of all four of us at KOA Live 1. So look forward to Game Day Extra Time. And also, just to mention podcast-wise, Mike Bacon, the Big Porker, is bringing you 2 special UEFA Cup anniversary podcasts. It's Arnold Muren and Franz Tyson, isn't it, Roscoe, that he's speaking to? And we'll put those out on the week of the anniversary, which is May the 20th. Incredible. 40 years ago, Ipswich Town had their best ever season, and now they're toiling in mid-table mediocrity in the 3rd tier. But boys, the future is bright for us and for them. Any other business, boys?
No other business.
Shave your balls.
That's the take-home message from this pod. As I say, the future is bright. Ipswich Town are now sponsored by Ed Sheeran. More excitingly, we're sponsored by Manscaped. So get 20% off and free delivery with the code KOA at manscaped.com. That's 20%, boys, not 10%, not 15, 20% off with free delivery. And that's important as well at manscaped.com. Your balls will thank you, it says here. But to use the KOA terminology, make your nuts look the nuts and then slap them on your nearest boardroom table. That's it from us. We'll speak to you again next week.